Tommy was broke. Like really, really broke. The kind of broke where you count quarters to buy instant noodles and pray your card doesn't get declined at the grocery store. Being a college student was expensive, and his part-time job at the campus bookstore barely covered his textbooks, let alone rent for his tiny apartment near the university. So when his previous roommate moved out to live with his girlfriend, Tommy knew he had to find someone fast. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and he didn't have nearly enough money to cover it alone. He posted ads everywhere: Craigslist, Facebook groups, campus bulletin boards. The message was simple: need roommate ASAP, clean apartment, good location, reasonable rent. Most of the responses were from weirdos or people who wanted to pay way less than half the rent. Tommy was starting to panic when he got a message from someone named Alex. The message was different. It was super formal, like someone writing a business letter instead of a casual text. Greetings, Tommy. I am interested in your living space arrangement. I can provide full payment in advance and maintain excellent cleanliness standards. Please advise on meeting procedures. Tommy thought it was a bit odd, but hey, full payment. In advance? That was music to his ears. They arranged a video call for that evening. When Alex appeared on screen, Tommy noticed he looked pretty normal. Maybe early 20s, clean cut, decent looking. But there was something off about the way he talked. Thank you for this meeting opportunity, Tommy, Alex said, sitting perfectly, straight and staring directly into the camera without blinking much. I have several questions about the living arrangement protocols. Sure, Tommy replied, munching on some chips. What do you want to know? What are the standard sleeping hours for humans in this location? Tommy paused mid-chew. For humans? I mean, I usually go to bed around midnight, wake up at 8 for classes. Pretty normal stuff. And the food preparation rituals? Are they conducted individually or as a group activity? Food preparation rituals? Tommy laughed. Dude, I mostly just microwave stuff or order pizza. You can use the kitchen whenever you want. Alex nodded seriously and appeared to be taking notes. Understood. And what about the temperature control preferences of your species? I mean, your personal temperature preferences. Tommy was starting to think this guy was either really nervous or maybe English wasn't his first language. Some international students talked pretty formally when they were being careful with English. I like it around 72 degrees, nothing crazy. Excellent. This data is very helpful. Data? Who called basic roommate questions data? But Alex seemed harmless enough, and when he mentioned he could pay 3 months' rent up front, Tommy decided not to overthink it. Weird was fine as long as it paid the bills. Great, Tommy said. When can you move in? Tomorrow would be optimal for beginning my studies. My stay. The next day, Tommy waited for Alex to show up with a moving truck, or at least a car full of stuff. Instead, Alex appeared at the door carrying just one suitcase. It wasn't even a normal suitcase. It looked like it was made of some kind of brushed metal and didn't have any brand names or stickers on it. This is all your stuff? Tommy asked, helping him inside. I prefer minimal possessions for maximum mobility, Alex replied, looking around the apartment like he was seeing furniture for the first time. He walked over to the couch and poked it gently with one finger, then sat down very carefully, as if he wasn't sure it would hold his weight. The couch is fine, Tommy laughed. It's old, but it's sturdy. Alex nodded and pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. Furniture durability confirmed, he muttered under his breath. What? Nothing important? Just personal notes. Over the next few hours, Tommy watched his new roommate explore the apartment with an intensity that was both fascinating and slightly concerning. Alex examined every appliance like it was some kind of alien technology. He spent a full 10 minutes figuring out how the microwave worked, pressing every button and reading the instruction manual that Tommy didn't even know they had. It uses electromagnetic radiation to heat food particles, Alex announced proudly, as if he'd discovered fire. Yeah, that's how microwaves work, Tommy said slowly. When Alex saw the TV remote, he picked it up and turned it over in his hands several times before carefully pressing the power button. The TV came on, and Alex jumped back slightly. The screen produces moving images with sound, he observed, making more notes on his phone. Dude, have you never seen a TV before? Not this type, Alex said carefully. That evening, things got even weirder. Tommy was getting ready for bed when he heard strange sounds coming from Alex's room. It wasn't music or TV. It sounded like electronic beeping and whirring, almost like the sounds computers make in sci-fi movies. Tommy knocked on the door. Hey, everything okay in there? The sounds stopped immediately. Yes, all is well. Just conducting some research. Research? For my studies. Academic research. About human sociology. Tommy figured Alex was probably a graduate student working on some project. That would explain the formal way of talking and all the note-taking. Cool. What's your major? There was a long pause. Anthropology. Cultural anthropology. Studying different groups of people. Nice. Well, try to keep it down. The walls are pretty thin. Of course. I will minimize sound production during standard sleep hours. Who talked like that? Tommy shook his head and went to bed, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his new roommate was hiding something. Not something dangerous. Alex seemed harmless enough, but definitely something unusual. Around 3 in the morning, Tommy woke up to use the bathroom. As he walked down the hall, he noticed a blue light coming from under Alex's door, flickering like a strobe light. The electronic beeping sounds were back, but quieter this time. Tommy stood there for a moment, debating whether to knock again. Finally, curiosity got the better of him. He tapped gently on the door. Alex, you okay? The light immediately went out, and the beeping stopped. Fine, came Alex's voice. Just studying. Late-night research. With disco lights? Special equipment. For data collection. Tommy decided he was too tired to deal with whatever weirdness was happening. As long as Alex paid rent and didn't burn the place down, he could have a rave in his room for all Tommy cared. But as he lay in bed trying to fall back asleep, Tommy couldn't help wondering what kind of research required mysterious metal suitcases, flashing blue lights, and treating basic household appliances like alien artifacts. He had no idea that his assumption about Alex studying a different group of people was more accurate than he could have possibly imagined. After living with Alex for 2 weeks, Tommy started feeling bad for the guy. Sure, Alex was weird, but he seemed lonely. He never had friends over, never went out, and spent most of his time in his room doing whatever mysterious research he was working on. Tommy decided his roommate needed to get out and meet people. Hey, Alex, Tommy said one Thursday morning while eating cereal. My friend Jake is throwing a party this Saturday. You should come. Alex looked up from his breakfast, which consisted of exactly 12 grapes arranged in a perfect circle on his plate. A party? Yeah, you know, music, food, people hanging out. It'll be fun. You can meet some folks, maybe make some friends. Alex's eyes lit up with interest. This gathering will include multiple human subjects. I mean, multiple people? Yeah. Probably like 30 or 40 people. Alex pulled out his phone and started typing rapidly. Excellent social research opportunity, he muttered. What? I said excellent social connection opportunity. Tommy wasn't sure why Alex always seemed to catch himself mid-sentence, but he was happy his roommate was interested. Cool. It starts at 8. Saturday evening came, and Tommy was getting ready when Alex emerged from his room wearing the most formal outfit Tommy had ever seen outside of a job interview. Black suit, perfectly pressed white shirt, shiny dress shoes, and a tie that looked expensive. Dude, it's just a house party, Tommy laughed, adjusting his own casual jeans and t-shirt. You look like you're going to a wedding. Alex looked down at his outfit with confusion. This is not appropriate human social gathering attire. Not, unless you want everyone to think you're someone's dad. Alex disappeared back into his room and emerged 5 minutes later in jeans and a button-down shirt. It was better, but he still looked like he was trying way too hard. When they arrived at Jake's place, the party was already in full swing. Music was pumping, people were laughing and talking, and the typical college party chaos was underway. Tommy immediately grabbed a beer and started chatting with some friends he hadn't seen in a while. Alex, meanwhile, stood frozen in the doorway like a deer in headlights. His eyes were darting around the room, taking in everything with the intensity of someone who'd never seen a social gathering before. "You okay?" Tommy asked, noticing Alex's deer-in-headlights expression. "Yes, just observing the social dynamics," Alex replied, pulling out his phone and starting to type. "Dude, put the phone away. Nobody takes notes at parties." Alex reluctantly put his phone back in his pocket, but Tommy could see him mentally cataloging everything around him. Things started getting weird almost immediately. While Tommy was talking to some classmates, he noticed Alex had positioned himself in the corner of the living room, perfectly still, just watching people, not participating, not socializing, just standing there like a security camera. "Who's your friend?" asked Lisa, one of Tommy's study partners. "My roommate Alex. He's shy." But Alex wasn't being shy. He was studying everyone like they were lab rats in a maze. Tommy watched as Alex's head turned to follow conversations, his eyes tracking people's movements with scientific precision. When a couple started getting a little flirty near the kitchen, Alex immediately moved closer, pretending to get a drink while obviously eavesdropping on their conversation. Tommy saw him pull out his phone and start typing under the counter. "Alex, what are you doing?" Tommy whispered, pulling him aside. "Documenting courtship behaviors," Alex replied matter-of-factly. "Documenting what now?" "I mean, studying how people interact romantically for my anthropology research." Tommy decided Alex was just really dedicated to his studies, even if it was a bit intense. But then things got worse. Alex started approaching random people and asking the most awkward questions Tommy had ever heard. "Excuse me," Alex said to a group of girls by the snack table. "I'm conducting research on human social hierarchies. Can you explain your group's power structure and leadership selection process?" The girls stared at him like he'd grown a second head. What?" one of them asked. "Who is the alpha female in your social unit?" Tommy quickly intervened. "Sorry, he's working on a psychology project, really intense stuff." As the evening went on, Alex's behavior became more and more bizarre. He started interviewing people about their genetic compatibility preferences and asking couples detailed questions about how they selected each other for partnership. "So when you chose this male as your companion," Alex said to a girl who was clearly just talking to some guy she'd met that night, "what factors influenced your selection criteria?" "Excuse me?" she replied, backing away slowly. "Were you attracted to his physical genetics or his resource-providing capabilities?" Tommy had to literally drag Alex away from that conversation. "Dude, you can't just walk up to people and ask stuff like that," Tommy hissed. "But how else will I learn about human partner selection protocols?" Partner selection protocols. "Alex, these people are just having fun. They're not conducting some kind of scientific experiment." Alex looked genuinely confused. "But how do they determine reproductive compatibility without proper evaluation?" Tommy stared at his roommate. "Reproductive compatibility? What kind of anthropology class are you taking?" The final straw came when someone offered Alex a beer. Instead of just saying yes or no like a normal person, Alex held the bottle up to the light, examining it like it contained a mysterious substance. "What is the alcohol content of this beverage?" he asked. "I don't know, man. It's just beer." Alex sniffed it carefully. "And this is consumed for recreational intoxication purposes?" "Yeah. That's generally why people drink beer at parties." "Interesting. This will lower inhibitions and affect decision-making capabilities during social bonding activities." The guy offering the beer slowly backed away. "Okay then. By 10 o'clock, Tommy had spent the entire party running damage control, explaining to confused people that his roommate was doing research for school and just really focused on his studies. Finally, Tommy couldn't take it anymore. He pulled Alex outside onto the porch where they could talk privately. "Alex, what is wrong with you tonight?" Alex looked genuinely surprised. "I don't understand. I'm simply observing and documenting human, social behaviors, but you're treating everyone like they're animals in a zoo. These are real people trying to have a good time, not research subjects. I apologize if my methods are inappropriate. I'm still learning these social customs." Tommy studied his roommate's face. There was something almost innocent about the way Alex said it, like he really didn't understand what he was doing wrong. "Look, if you want to make friends and fit in, you need to actually participate, not just study everyone. Talk to people about normal stuff, movies, music, classes. Ask them about their interests, not their genetic compatibility." Alex nodded seriously, like Tommy was giving him vital information for survival. As they walked home that night, Tommy couldn't shake the feeling that Alex wasn't just socially awkward. There was something deeper going on, something that made Alex approach human interaction like he was learning about it for the very first time. But Tommy had no idea just how accurate that feeling actually was. After the party disaster, Tommy felt even worse for Alex. His roommate had spent the whole weekend in his room, probably embarrassed about how things went. Tommy could hear the usual electronic beeping sounds, but they seemed sadder somehow, if that was even possible. "Hey, Alex," Tommy said Monday morning, finding his roommate arranging his breakfast in those weird geometric patterns again. "Don't worry about Saturday night. Parties aren't for everyone." Alex looked up with those intense eyes of his. "I failed to properly integrate with the social group." "You didn't fail, man. You just need practice talking to people in a more casual way. Perhaps I need individual study sessions before group interactions." Tommy had an idea. His friend Riley from his psychology program had mentioned she was single and looking to meet new people. She was patient, kind, and smart enough to handle Alex's quirky personality. Maybe a one-on-one situation would help Alex learn normal social skills. "Actually," Tommy said, "I know someone who might be perfect for you to practice with. Her name's Riley. She's really nice, and she's studying psychology, so she's good with different types of people." Alex's face lit up like Tommy had just offered him the solution to world peace. "A female human subject for behavioral study? A girl to go on a date with," Tommy corrected quickly. "You know, dinner, conversation, getting to know each other." "Yes, a controlled social experiment with a single participant." Tommy decided not to correct him again. Baby steps. He texted Riley that night, explaining that his roommate was a bit shy and awkward but really sweet once you got to know him. Riley, being the kind person she was, agreed to meet Alex for coffee on Thursday. Tommy spent the next 3 days coaching Alex on basic dating etiquette. It was like teaching someone from another planet how to be human. "Okay, rule number 1, Tommy said. Ask her about herself. What's she studying? What are her hobbies? What movies she likes? Normal stuff." Alex took notes on his phone. "Gather personal data about interests and preferences. Don't call it data, just get to know her. And what should I share about my background? Just keep it simple. You're studying anthropology. You're from out of town. You like learning about different cultures." "That's actually quite accurate," Alex said with a strange smile. Thursday came, and Alex emerged from his room wearing another one of his perfectly pressed suits, carrying what looked like a small briefcase. "Dude, what's with the briefcase?" "Research materials," Alex replied confidently. "Research materials? It's a coffee date, not a job interview." "But how will I properly document the interaction without proper equipment?" Tommy stared at him. "You're not documenting anything. You're having a conversation with a nice girl." That's it. Alex reluctantly left the briefcase at home. but Tommy could see him patting his jacket pocket, probably checking that his phone was there for note-taking. Tommy didn't hear from Alex for 3 hours, which he took as a good sign. Maybe things were going well. Then his phone rang. "Tommy," Riley's voice sounded strained. "I'm at the coffee shop on 5th Street. Can you come pick up your roommate? Like now?" "What happened?" "Just, please come. And maybe bring some normal clothes." For him. Tommy found them at a corner table in the coffee shop. Riley looked like she'd seen a ghost, and Alex was sitting across from her with papers spread out between them, completely oblivious to her obvious discomfort. "Hey guys," Tommy said, sliding into the booth. "How's it going?" "Your roommate," Riley said carefully, "is very thorough." Tommy looked at the papers on the table. They were covered in Alex's handwriting, with what looked like charts and diagrams. "Alex, what is all this?" "Predate compatibility assessment forms," Alex replied proudly. "I've gathered extensive data about Riley's genetic background, family, medical history, and reproductive timeline." Tommy's eyes went wide. "You what?" Riley held up a multi-page questionnaire. He asked me to fill this out before we could proceed with what he called courtship evaluation protocols. Courtship evaluation protocols? Alex nodded enthusiastically. "I needed to determine our biological compatibility index before moving. Forward with the relationship formation process." Riley leaned toward Tommy. "He asked me about my family's health records going back 3 generations, my blood type, and whether I had any genetic conditions that might affect potential offspring." "Offspring?" Tommy's voice cracked. "I also documented the optimal lighting. Conditions in this establishment for mate assessment," Alex continued, completely missing the horror on both their faces. "The fluorescent lighting is adequate, though natural sunlight would provide better evaluation parameters." "Mate assessment?" Riley whispered. Alex pulled out his phone and showed them what appeared to be a detailed analysis. "I've been observing other coupling pairs in this location to understand proper interaction sequences. The male typically provides resources in exchange for female attention, and both parties engage in information exchange to determine long-term partnership viability." Tommy grabbed the phone. Alex had been taking pictures of other couples in the coffee shop and making notes about their behavior like they were wildlife. "Alex," Tommy said slowly, "you can't take pictures of strangers and analyze their relationships. But how else can I learn proper courtship procedures?" Riley was already gathering her things. "Tommy, I'm really sorry, but I have to go. Your roommate seems nice, but he might want to talk to someone about his approach to dating." After she left, Tommy sat across from Alex, trying to process what had just happened. "I don't understand," Alex said, looking genuinely confused. "I followed all proper research protocols. I gathered necessary data, observed successful examples, and presented myself as a viable partnership candidate." "Alex, dating isn't research. It's about getting to know someone, having fun together, seeing if you enjoy each other's company. But how do you determine compatibility without proper evaluation? You just talk to them. See if you laugh at the same jokes, if you have things in common, if you feel comfortable around each other." Alex stared at him like Tommy was speaking a foreign language. "So you don't analyze genetic markers or assess reproductive potential?" "No, definitely not on a first date, or ever, really, unless you're planning to have kids way down the line." "This is much more complicated than I anticipated," Alex muttered, making more notes. As they walked home, Tommy couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's approach to dating was less about social awkwardness and more about someone who had learned about human relationships from textbooks rather than experience. But the real question was, what kind of textbooks was Alex reading? After the dating disaster with Riley, things got even weirder around the apartment. Alex seemed frustrated, spending even more time locked in his room with those strange electronic sounds. Sometimes Tommy would hear what sounded like Alex talking to someone. but in a language that didn't sound like anything he'd ever heard before. It was all clicks and whistles and sounds that didn't seem possible for human vocal cords to make. Tommy started paying closer attention to his roommate's habits. Alex never seemed to sleep at normal hours. Tommy would get up at 3 in the morning to use the bathroom and see light under Alex's door, along with those weird beeping sounds. And Alex's eating habits were getting stranger, too. He'd started buying the most random combinations of food, things that made no sense together. One day, Tommy came home from class to find Alex in the kitchen, eating what appeared to be a sandwich, made of pickles, chocolate chips, and some kind of weird paste he'd never seen before. "Dude, what is that?" Tommy asked, trying not to gag. "Nutritional supplement combination," Alex replied, taking another bite without any change in expression. "That looks disgusting. Taste preferences vary among individuals." There was that thing again where Alex seemed to catch himself mid-sentence. Tommy was starting to notice it happened a lot, especially when Alex seemed about to say something about groups of people or species or something scientific. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night. Tommy had been studying late for a biology exam when he heard Alex's door open around 2 in the morning. Curious, Tommy quietly looked down the hallway and saw Alex heading toward the back door that led to their small yard. Tommy waited a few minutes, then crept to the window to see what Alex was doing outside. What he saw made his brain completely freeze. Alex was standing in the middle of their backyard, holding what looked like a metallic device about the size of a tablet. The device was glowing with that same blue light Tommy had seen under Alex's door. But that wasn't the weird part. The weird part was that Alex was pointing the device at the sky and speaking in that strange clicking language again, and the device was responding. Tommy could see lights blinking on it in patterns, almost like it was communicating back. Tommy watched for 10 minutes as Alex had what appeared to be a full conversation with this glowing device. Sometimes Alex would nod, sometimes he'd make gestures, and the whole time the device kept flashing different colored lights. When Alex finally headed back inside, Tommy quickly pretended to be asleep. But his mind was racing. What kind of device glowed and responded to voice commands? And what language was Alex speaking? The next morning, Tommy couldn't concentrate on anything. He kept staring at Alex during breakfast, trying to figure out what he'd witnessed. "Alex," Tommy finally said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What exactly are you studying in your anthropology program?" Alex paused with his spoon halfway to his mouth. "Cultural behaviors of local populations." "Local populations? People in this geographic region? And what school did you say you go to again?" Another pause. "I don't believe I specified an institution." Tommy realized Alex was right. In all their conversations, Alex had never actually said where he was a student. Tommy had just assumed he went to the same university. "So where do you go to school?" Alex was quiet for a long time, staring at his perfectly arranged breakfast. "It's not exactly a traditional educational institution." "What does that mean?" "Tommy," Alex said slowly, "if I told you something that sounded impossible, would you believe me?" Tommy's heart started beating faster. "Try me." Alex stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the yard where Tommy had seen him the night before. "What if I told you that some of the things you've observed about my behavior have rational explanations that don't fit with your understanding of normal human patterns?" "Like what?" Alex turned back to face him. "Like the fact that I study human behavior because I'm not actually human myself." Tommy laughed, but it came out nervous and shaky. "What are you talking about?" "I'm from a place that's very far away, Tommy. Much farther than another country, or even another continent." The way Alex said it made Tommy's stomach drop. There was something in his roommate's voice that was completely serious. "How far away?" Alex walked over to his room and came back with that metallic suitcase Tommy had seen on move-in day. He set it on the kitchen table and opened it. Inside was the glowing device Tommy had seen the night before, along with several other pieces of technology that looked like nothing he'd ever seen. Everything was sleek and metallic, with no visible buttons or screens. But they were all humming softly with energy. "My home is about 47 light years from here," Alex said quietly. Tommy stared at the devices, then at Alex, then back at the devices. "Light years. I'm what you would call an extraterrestrial researcher. I was sent here to study human social behaviors, particularly how your species forms emotional bonds and selects partners for long-term relationships." Tommy's legs felt weak. He sat down hard in his chair. "You're an alien." That's a rather crude term, but essentially accurate. Everything suddenly made sense. The formal way of talking, the strange eating habits, treating normal household items like alien technology, approaching human relationships like a science experiment. The blue lights, the beeping sounds, that weird language you speak. Communication. With my research supervisors and data analysis equipment. Tommy's mind was reeling. "So when you were asking people about genetic compatibility and reproductive timelines, I was trying to understand how humans choose mates without the benefit of scientific analysis. My species approaches partnership selection very differently. And the party, when you were studying everyone like lab rats, I was observing social hierarchy formation and group bonding behaviors. I had no idea how inappropriate my methods were until you explained it." Tommy sat in silence for several minutes, trying to process everything. His roommate was an alien, an actual extraterrestrial being from another planet, studying humans like they were an interesting species he'd discovered. "Are you going to turn me into the government or something?" Alex asked nervously. Tommy looked at his roommate, his alien roommate, and started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so completely insane that laughter was the only response his brain could come up with. "Turn you in? Dude, you're probably the most harmless alien in the universe. You can't even order pizza without analyzing the social implications." Alex smiled, and for the first time since Tommy had met him, it looked completely genuine and relaxed. "So you're not afraid?" "Honestly, I'm more relieved than anything. I was starting to think you had some kind of serious social disorder. Finding out you're just an alien trying to figure out human dating makes way more sense." For the first time in weeks, Alex laughed too. It was a normal, human-sounding laugh, but somehow Tommy could hear the relief in it. "So," Tommy said, looking at the alien technology spread across his kitchen table, "want to tell me what it's really like being an extraterrestrial grad student?" Once the truth was out, living with Alex became completely different. Instead of being confused by his weird behavior, Tommy found himself fascinated by getting an alien's perspective on human life. It was like having a friend from another world, who could point out all the strange things humans do that nobody ever thinks about. "So let me get this straight," Tommy said the morning after Alex's big reveal. "Your entire species picks partners based on scientific compatibility tests?" Alex nodded, sipping his coffee in that careful way he did everything. "Genetic markers, psychological profiles, resource management capabilities, offspring potential. It's very efficient. But what about feelings? Like, do you guys fall in love?" Alex paused, looking genuinely confused. What exactly is falling in love? Tommy realized he was about to try to explain one of the most complex human emotions to someone who approached relationships like a math problem. It's when you meet someone and you just connect with them. You enjoy being around them, you think about them when they're not there, you want to make them happy. But how do you know if they're genetically compatible? You don't. That's not the point. Love isn't about genetics. It's about how someone makes you feel. Alex pulled out his phone and started taking notes. Emotional connection supersedes biological optimization. Dude, stop taking notes on human emotions. That's exactly your problem. Over the next few weeks, Tommy decided to give Alex a crash. course in actually being human instead of just studying humans. The first lesson was learning to have normal conversations. "Okay," Tommy said. "When someone asks how your day was, they don't want a detailed analysis of your activities. They're just being friendly. But how will they understand my daily productivity levels? They don't need to. Just say good or busy or pretty chill. It's called small talk." Alex practiced small talk with their neighbor, Mrs. Chen. Instead of his usual formal greeting of "Good morning, female elderly human," he managed a simple, "Hi, Mrs. Chen, how are you?" Mrs. Chen, who had always seemed slightly afraid of Alex before, actually smiled and asked him how his studies were going. "Much better than expected," Alex replied, glancing at Tommy with what looked like pride. The next lesson was understanding. Human humor. Alex had been taking jokes literally, which led to some awkward moments. When someone says it's raining cats and dogs, they don't mean actual animals are falling from the sky, Tommy explained. I had wondered about the meteorological impossibility of that phenomenon. Teaching Alex about sarcasm was even harder. Tommy spent an entire afternoon explaining that when someone said great in a flat tone after something bad happened, they meant the opposite. So humans frequently say the opposite of what they mean. Sometimes, you have to listen to their tone of voice and look at their facial expressions. Your species is remarkably inefficient at communication. Yeah, but it's more interesting than just stating facts all the time. The biggest challenge was helping Alex understand friendship. He kept approaching potential friends like research subjects, which wasn't working any better than his dating strategy. "Remember Jake from the party?" Tommy asked. "He's coming over to watch the game tonight. Just be normal. Ask him about school, sports, whatever. Don't analyze his social behaviors." When Jake arrived, Alex managed to have an almost normal conversation about basketball. He only slipped up once, asking Jake about his tribal loyalty patterns regarding athletic competition groups. "Your roommate is weird, but he's growing on me," Jake told Tommy later. "He asks interesting questions." Slowly, Alex started developing what could only be called real friendships. He learned to appreciate human humor, even if he didn't always understand it. He discovered that humans could be genuinely kind without ulterior motives, which seemed to fascinate him. The breakthrough moment came when Alex met Zoe, the barista at their local coffee shop. Unlike his disastrous date with Riley, Alex approached Zoe as a friend first. He started by simply saying good morning and asking how her day was going. "Your usual," Zoe asked one morning, smiling at Alex. "Actually," Alex said, "what would you recommend? I'm trying to expand my taste preferences." Tommy watched from their table as Zoe and Alex had a completely normal conversation about different coffee drinks. Alex didn't take any notes, didn't ask about her genetic background, and managed to seem genuinely interested in her opinions about espresso versus drip coffee. "See," Tommy said when Alex sat back down. "That wasn't research. That was just being friendly." "She has an interesting perspective on coffee preparation methods," Alex said thoughtfully. And I enjoyed talking to her, not for research purposes, just because she seems like a nice person." Tommy grinned. "That, my alien friend, is the beginning of understanding what humans call friendship." Over the next few months, Alex became almost indistinguishable from any other slightly quirky college student. He still had his formal way of speaking sometimes, and he occasionally slipped up and referred to human customs like he wasn't part of them. But he'd learned to genuinely connect with people. The biggest change was in how Alex viewed his research. Instead of cold scientific observation, he started experiencing human emotions firsthand. "I think I'm beginning to understand what you meant about falling in love," Alex told Tommy one evening. "Oh yeah? What happened?" "Zoe and I had coffee yesterday, just the two of us. Not at the shop, but at that place downtown. And when she laughed at something I said, I felt different. Like her happiness was connected to my happiness somehow. Tommy smiled. That's called caring about someone. It's highly inefficient, Alex said, but he was smiling too. I find myself thinking about her well-being, even when it doesn't benefit me in any way. Welcome to being human, buddy. As Alex's time on Earth was winding down, he faced a choice. His research was complete, but the cold, scientific data he'd been sent to collect had become something entirely different. Instead of analyzing human behavior from the outside, he'd learned to experience it from the inside. My supervisors are expecting a report on human reproductive strategies and social bonding efficiency, Alex explained one night, but I don't think I can write what they want to hear. What do you mean? They want data about optimal partner selection and resource allocation in relationships. But what I've learned is that the most important part of human connection isn't about optimization at all. Alex's final report, which he showed Tommy before transmitting it back to his home planet, was unlike anything his supervisors had probably expected. Instead of cold analysis, it was full of observations about kindness, laughter, the joy of making someone else happy, and the way humans could care about each other without any logical reason. Will they understand it? Tommy asked. Probably not, Alex admitted. But maybe that's okay. Some things can't be understood through analysis. They have to be experienced. The night before Alex had to leave, they sat on their apartment balcony, looking up at the stars. I'm going to miss this, Alex said quietly. Miss what? Earth? Miss being human. Or at least miss trying to be human. Tommy looked at his friend, this alien who'd become more human than some actual humans he knew. Alex, I think you succeeded way more than you realize. You didn't just learn about humans, you became one of us. 6 months later, Tommy received a message on that strange glowing device Alex had left behind. It was short, but it made Tommy smile. Tommy, update from home planet. Currently teaching my people about something called friendship. Turns out, the most important research can't be measured in data points. Also, I miss pizza. Your friend from the stars, Alex. Tommy looked up at the night sky and smiled. Somewhere out there, an alien was teaching his entire species about the most human thing of all, how to care about others just because it felt good to do so.